Hello.
Hey Casey, how you doing?
Yeah, good.
So, if I'd love to do just a little for people that are listening, I'd love to do
Yeah.
a little introduction on who you are, what you do, and your next or latest business venture.
So yeah, I'm Casey Bird. I am the founder and creative director of Studio Roo, which is an AI-focused creative production studio. Very much human craft first, AI hybrid production second. My background is advertising agencies, and then in-house I worked as a brand creative director for Refinery 29, which is a female focused digital publisher. And then most recently, I was at Channel 4 for about 3.5 years as a creative director in the brand partnerships team. So that's working on all different kind of partnerships creatively, working with all amazing people and really brilliant brands, everyone from Google to IKEA, Samsung, whoever it might be who want to partner with Channel 4. And
Mhm.
just before I left, I created their first ever brand partner AI advert in May 2025. So that was really exciting and definitely gave me the motivation and excitement to kick off and start my own thing, which I've been doing since October 2025. Very new. I've worked with a few partners so far, creating adverts, or I'm doing a B2B piece of content now for an airline at the minute. Everything from fashion, visuals, etc. Yeah, it's new, exciting, and I'm really curious to see what's going to happen in 2026.
Great. First of all, congratulations. It's awesome. I'm very intrigued to find out more about Studio Roo. I think the AI thing is super fascinating. It's kind of why I started this thing. So why did you choose AI over starting like a traditional agency?
I chose focusing around AI versus a traditional agency because, I mean, I think it's undeniable. The world is changing very fast.
Hmm.
I had completely immersed myself in understanding everything around AI, the ups and downs of it throughout my maternity a few years ago. Previous to Channel 4, which is a very big traditional company, very much focused on TV, I'd worked a lot in the digital space. So I'd worked at a dating app for a while, doing a lot of like their copy and understanding like the tech world, and then working for a digital platform as well. So I was really aware that the tech world was
Mm.
going so fast. And actually, I think if you want to stay relevant, stay interested, and actually keep creatively stimulated, for me, that's where AI kind of re-peaked my creative juices, I guess. And I
Hmm.
think being able to create amazing work which had never got out the door, or someone had not wanted it, or whatever it might be, being able to create that and get that like out of your head or out of like your, the bottom drawer of creative and onto the screen through AI, for me was just like this mind-blowing moment where I was like, wow, this is incredible. Plus, anyone who's ever worked in production or big productions in the commercial world, the cost is outrageous. And something that I'm really interested in is enabling brands who don't have the Coca-Cola, IKEA, Apple size production budgets to create really big, beautiful storytelling pieces of content, whether it's an advert, whether it's a B2B piece of content to explain what they do. Previous to that, you'd need at least like 50 grand or whatever it was.
Mm.
So there was just this really amazing opportunity, like, level the playing fields of brands and creativity and work with brands who have smaller budgets but still want to do really good work creatively and good brand storytelling but have never had access. So for me, that just felt like a really nice, like bringing these elements together and being able to work independently and also to be able to work in my own time and a timeline that works for me as a mom as well. So that's kind of where I thought was an interesting space to play. So far there's a lot of back and forth and people loving it, hating it. Everyone has an opinion on AI, and I get that and I respect that.
Hmm.
But to me, the point is it's not going anywhere, and how you're going to use that to your advantage is really, I think, where people are going to kind of excel or not.
I think what you said about giving the smaller businesses a chance to almost compete at the top level is actually really quite an interesting perspective.
And there are so many mid-sized brands that have started over the last 5-6 years and boomed, and they have now investment
Mhm.
seeding, etc., and they're sort of growing really quick, and they just need flexible creative teams who can work with them, and that's hopefully where I'll come in.
Sounds great. On Unprompted, I'd like to start with something a little bit analog or off screen.
Yeah, I mean, the Spanish with Manners has always had such a special place in my heart. Essentially, they are London's first all-female mechanics. And I came across them very analog
Mm.
during COVID, I had my first baby. And as you can imagine, there was just a lot of walking around and not going to any baby classes or anything like that. It was a
Of
very
course.
isolating time. And in the area I lived in North London, I walked past this mechanics and I saw this logo that said Spanners with Manners, London's first all female mechanics. And I'd always been really heavily involved in sort of female focused communities. I used to be the president of She Says, started a mentor scheme called Who's Your Mama, which still runs today. So it's
Hmm.
something I've always been really passionate about. It's like supporting women in different areas. This just, I was like, wow, how have I never seen them? So I too scared to go in, and I actually got home and I looked at them on Instagram and I thought, wow, these women are incredible, doing something, that stands out completely. But their social media just was not reflecting the coolness of who they are. So, being on maternity, I was so desperate to keep my brain moving, particularly in a very isolating time for everyone. So
Hmm.
I DM'd them and I was like, hey, I live really near you. I'm a creative director. I'm freelance. If I can help you in any way, whether it's your marketing tool, whatever you want, like I would love to work with you. And so what followed was this kind of nearly a year of like amazing friendship. Me and my daughter Ruby would go down and just hang out at the garage. We learned so much about cars. And in doing so, I also created a lot of social content for them, made them be like, guys, this is amazing what you're doing. I think you could get interesting brand partnerships. So I think Dickies, the clothing brand, I arranged for them to send loads of workwear to them. They did a BMW advert, which I helped like negotiate them to get like a good cost for. What the word is. They were in magazines. I helped get them into like local magazines, but then also they were featured on some digital platforms. I think even Cara Delevingne was like reposting them and being like, this is so
Wow.
cool. And I just did it all for free because I was, on maternity, desperate for some kind of interaction, but also just to use my creativity in a different way. And it was obviously as a creative working for these big brands, working at ad agencies and working for big brands, you never really get to, I never really had worked with, I guess, independent businesses. And it was so eye opening to understand, the limitations and the reality of like actually what they want to achieve and what they can achieve. And finding that balance of like me being so excited about like, I want everyone to hear about you guys. And we had these like crazy ideas. Like sometimes I'd drop Ruby home and go back on like a Friday night. We just like drink wine in the mechanics and brainstorm crazy, stupid ideas. Like we were going to do like a UK garage fundraiser in the garage
Wow.
where like all these kind of things that never ended up happening. But it was really lovely to also meet, going back to analog,
Mm.
really interesting and lovely to meet people who are so not from my world and a different walk of life. And then finding this like lovely unity and friendship. I'm still friends with them now, 5 years on, even though I've moved, so I don't live near them anymore. But that kind of unity of friendship and just in a kind of a really weird period of time. And I even remember taking my daughter's little trike down there one time that was squeaking, and the mechanic was like adjusting the wheels and we took some photos. All these funny things, but it just kind of reminded me of the power of community as well. And in a world full of digital craziness and endless scrolling, and we all kind of hate ourselves because we're always on social media all the time. Reminder of just, local community and helping each other out and supporting each other. It was really lovely and a really nice reminder, particularly at that like pivotal point of where everything was, a crazy world at the time, basically. So that for me is that kind of analog creative moment. Although obviously a lot of it went online, it was kind of very sort of a very physical experience. And yeah, it was lovely. I really enjoyed it.
What a beautiful story. Like finding such deep connection in a time where you're so isolated is props to you
Yeah.
for being so creative. I think that's awesome. And you said you're still in contact with them and you've created friendships
Yeah.
for life. Is
My
that
my my friend photographed their wedding. So also it's all like about, LGBTQ friendly and stuff. So it was two
Mhm.
wives who run it. And my friend, who's like an editorial photographer, she ended up actually shooting their wedding. And so it was all this kind of like interconnected loveliness as well. So yeah, that was really fun.
something? Yeah, amazing story. Thank you for sharing that. Do you think it says anything about the way you think or the way you work?
Yeah, I think it does actually. And I think a word that I often come back to, especially when I've been starting Studio Roo and very much in when you start a business and you feel really, everything feels really unknown. The word I always have to come back to is curiosity. and being curious and just putting yourself out there. Every time I've done that, I have no clue what's going to happen. But I feel like, as most creative people, being curious is the kind of the heart of so much of what they do and what they create. So I definitely think that element of curiosity travels through a lot of the things that I do, whether it was, starting out and wanting to help out, as she says, and then becoming sort of like the president of that organization for a while, or just DMing the Spanners with Manners, or, doing whatever, just sending an email and being like, this probably won't work, but, fuck it, I'm going to send it anyway. And then, yeah, starting this business, whether it works or not, for me is, hopefully it does, but the idea of being curious about the unknown, which is very much the AI world and how hybrid
About to
production is
say.
going to work. Yeah, I think it's so unknown, but I think approaching it through a curious lens is kind of, for me, the only way to go about it.
Yeah, I agree. I was about to say it says exactly. It says to me, your curiosity is why you probably started Studio Roo. And I think the curiosity with AI, like I'm super curious with it, and I want to delve deep into it, but at the same time, I want to be curious of not curious, aware of. And so the reason I started this, I'm not sure if you saw, was because I'm like got this constant need to use AI, especially if you're on LinkedIn and stuff. And I think
Yeah.
the possibilities are so amazing. But what I found myself doing was relying on it too much when on like the simple stuff. And I'm very keen to get your thoughts on that slightly later on. So I will just jump onto some thinking questions because I'm very interested to figure out how your brain works. And so how do you set yourself up for your best thinking?
I wrote this down. I mean, this probably says it all that I had to write it down because I couldn't remember.
That's fine.
Oh, that was it. So my best thinking, I was thinking about this question a little bit. And I think my best thinking, it's taken me a while to understand how I think. That makes sense?
It makes so much sense.
Yeah, right. Like in the last few years, everyone's, Ricky Gervais made that joke on his recent thing, was like, everyone's got ADHD. We've all got ADD. It's like, but you know what? It's everyone's brain works so differently. And actually, whilst we joke about it, just particularly creative people understanding how your brain is wired and why suddenly you're like having these like manic bursts of creativity and then you're having really like lull days, and actually accepting that and kind of embracing it and leaning into it, for me, has been the biggest learning. So, and I think actually I've been so much more productive since I left a traditional 9 to 5, because I'm very self-motivated. So I'm
Hmm.
so much better on my own than being told what to do. I'm like, oh, I can't bothered, which might be a fault of mine. But I know that I have this smaller window of time because I want to pick up my daughter at 3:30 or whatever. So I go hyper focused. But equally, I'm aware that I like to think in the evenings. And I think I want to just go like my brain's a bit tired. So it sort of unravels a little bit.
Hmm.
And I don't know about you, like when you have your moments, but that I don't know, I'll put the kids to bed or whatever. And sometimes I will just want to get on my laptop and I just kind of bash out a load of like creative visuals, or that's kind of how I created my AI granny, very much in this like Wes Anderson surreal world. I just had this idea and this thought and this script, and I just wrote it all down. And, obviously it feels like it's quick, but obviously the craft, we've learned the skills over so long. But, in an evening or two, had this like short piece of content made. So I feel like I'm just trying to lean into the chaos of being self-employed a little bit and trying to make that work for me. So I think my best thinking happens just like when I'm not planning it, I think. But I do try and be structured, and I think very much like getting up at a certain point, doing some exercise. I bought this little sand timer. I don't know. I put it on my Instagram the
That's
other day.
cool.
And it's 45 minutes. I mean, look, I could just put my timer on my phone, but this is
No, that's
obviously
way better.
more aesthetically pleasing.
More
Thank you.
aesthetic. Analog.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty to look at, but yeah, I was listening to a podcast which was all about that 45-minute burst of focus. There's lots of
Mm.
research behind it and whatever. So I was like, all right, I'm going to give it a go. And I've definitely been finding that useful, but equally, my brain does go everywhere. I put it on the day before. I started vision boarding, and then before I know it, I was doing this other thing, and I was like, gosh, just stay focused. Um, but it's like that's just how your brain works. That's it, right? You can't fight it.
Yeah. It's so funny you said a lot of the things that I'm thinking at the moment. I even wrote a little piece on like the conditions for thinking,
Right.
which I haven't actually shared yet, but it's about just because I'm still learning about how my brain thinks, it
Mm.
feels quite sporadic, as you were saying. It jumps around all the time, and it's finding how to get those best conditions to actually just get in this state of flow.
Yes, in a sort of flow, I think I don't know about you, like, I could just go into, like, a hyper focus, and when I'm in it, I'm done, But then
Yes.
otherwise, it just takes so long. Like I'll have down lull days where I'm just like, today's not the day. And it's hard. It is hard to kind of pinpoint. I mean, you get all the work done. And that's I think why so many 9 to 5 jobs just aren't really made for people with sort of alternative creative brains.
Hmm.
Hard, isn't it?
It's a nice way of putting it. Alternative creative brains.
It's a good way of thinking of just like the scatty people who are just a bit,
Yes. Yeah.
a bit all over
Yeah.
the place.
So an interesting one. I'm quite intrigued to know, especially in your case, how do you avoid getting repetitive in your thinking? And the reason I say in your case specifically is because being someone that runs an AI studio, I know that I can lean into patterns when trying to figure
Mhm.
stuff out when relying on AI. And I'm not saying you do that. I'm just intrigued to know your thoughts around that.
When you say you get into patterns, what do you mean by that? As in, like, you ask
I,
you ask always to do the LinkedIn post or whatever it might be, or
I think when I say avoid getting repetitive in your thinking, I've definitely noticed myself falling into patterns of, let's say, I'll get a brief and I'll go straight to AI and I'll ask it the same questions. And
right,
like it's been taking away a little bit from my
right,
creativity.
okay,
So I just wanted
yeah.
to know if you had anything that you do to avoid getting repetitive in your thinking.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that actually I started to do with AI when it comes to briefs, for example, just on the note of what you just said, is
Hmm.
I will put in a brief, and instead of asking it to be like, "What would you come up with this?" I say, "What is this brief missing? What kind of questions should I be challenging the client on?" And I think sometimes we take briefs as gospel, right? And actually,
Hmm.
they really need pushing back on a lot of the time, especially if you want to get to the perfect answer for our client. I think often there's still a lot of questions to be asked. So
Yeah.
I often ask AI to kind of help be a bit of a critical thinker and get to a smarter place. When it comes to repetitive thinking, I think when I think about AI particularly, I mean, it's hard to get repetitive when the models are ever changing. I think that's what excites
That's
me and makes me
interesting.
so curious about AI is like the models are changing. And, I always say to people when they're like, it's really overwhelming. I don't know which tool or thing to download. And I get that. It can be fatiguing and just overwhelming. And my
Mm.
first thing is like, just get started on any of them. You know what? After a while, they're all so similar. They all just
Hmm.
do the same thing, to a slightly different taste, I guess. So I have the models I like, but they're always changing. So the possibilities of what you can create and the way that you can do it, whether it's like agentic workflows or imagery or visuals or editing or sound or whatever, because they're changing so much, that's actually keeping me really interested and excited to work in different ways and to create
Hmm.
pieces of content in different ways as well. So yeah, I think repetitiveness is actually pretty hard to do with how fast AI is moving.
Hmm.
But I do know what you mean about using it for very samey things. And I think it is really hard. But I don't know about you, but I can see there's a huge AI fatigueness. That's not even a word, but I'm making it a word
Hmm.
happening where we're all over the LinkedIn ChatGPT posts. Like everyone knows it now. And I think actually there's such a beauty in that kind of people using their own voices, hence why Substacks are flying
Hmm.
through the roof while so many people are reading them. So I think that kind of excitement of ChatGPT doing really basic tasks like writing an email, whatever, which is all fine and actually it's really good for and makes life so much quicker.
Mm.
I think we're kind of a bit like the novelty's worn off a little bit. And I think this year will be the year that we see it being used in different ways. Um, for different people in different workflows. But me personally, like I've definitely worn my excitement has most definitely gone of like, oh my God, LinkedIn can write this whole post. That's fucking mind blowing. Because actually then you realize when you write your own LinkedIn post and it has your own tone and emotion and like a typo, I think often it like performs better as well because it's so much more authentic. But then,
Mm.
yeah, get it to like craft it a bit. Often I'll get it to like shorten my ramble. But yeah, sorry, talking of ramble, I definitely went off on a tangent on that
No, no, no,
conversation.
not at all. It's great. It's kind of what I hoped for. Yeah, that was a great answer. Thank you. Well, I guess you've kind of covered this, but a bit more on the nose one. I kind of added this in last minute because it's kind of the reason I started Unprompted. Are you concerned about losing your ability to creatively think for yourself when you're outsourcing so much to AI?
I mean, it's a really good question. And it's obviously a question on a lot of people's minds at the minute of kind of like, where is creativity going when it comes to AI?
Hmm.
However, the people who are raising this concern so much on LinkedIn, and obviously I'm just speculating, I believe they're the people who are not using AI at all. Because the more I use AI for creative thinking, bouncing around ideas or whatever, I very quickly realized that my 16 years of being a creative, last 3 years at like a big broadcaster as a creative director, my thinking is still better. And that's not me bragging. That's me just being like, this is just like a fact of what I've personally been finding. So I
Mm,
really think that people who are using AI a lot and understanding it, and it sounds like you're very aware of it as well and kind of conscious of that change, which I think even being conscious of it is going to mean that you're not going to fall into the trap of that, basically. The people who use it a lot, and the more I've used it, whether it's ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, whatever it might be, I'm just like, it's great for tasks like admin tasks, sorting out information, documents, helping ensure that my brand tone of voice is in line with, everything I want it to do when I make projects folders in ChatGPT, for example.
mhm,
But if I put a brief into it, like I always think my work is better, my thinking is better. Everything I've done, whether it's the Santa video I had,
mhm.
the idea I had where he was taking Monjaro and he was suddenly really fit and doing a Balenciaga ad. I don't know if you can say Santa's fit, but he looked fit. They
I think,
were
yeah,
all
that's fine.
my, they were all my ideas and my thinking. What
Yes.
AI did was help make the help cut it down and help pinpoint, like the beats, and then obviously visualize it. So that's where I thought, like, that's incredible. It's like I'm using it as my tool versus it being my competitor. And I
Mhm.
think when people flip into that mindset, then I think your creativity can get even more incredible and exciting and unbelievable. And my biggest pet peeve at the minute with AI and creativity, it's not that people are like, I hate AI and creativity. That doesn't bother me. It's when people are using it, and I see a lot of like people using it for video and whatnot, and you're just recreating like the everyday world,
Right.
which of course is really great if you're like, need to cut budget on a scene for a product shoot or whatever it might be. But we have this tool which allows us to like the most insane imagination to create the most insane imagination, sending a cow to the moon and it's a butterbrot, whatever it might be. Like we can do anything. And for me, that's quite exciting. Like we're
Mm,
now not so restricted by the limitations of production budgets and location fees and talent. Like, I've shot with, I did something at Channel 4 a while ago with cats. And it was such a headache. And I was like, oh, could have just AI'd this. This would have been so
mm.
fun. And then I could have got the cat doing whatever. So I'm not taking away or diminishing from the craft of shooting properly. And I think that takes a lot, whatever it might be. It just, for me, is expanding our thinking and making it even more exciting.
I think that's very interesting. I think, and I'm the same. I think the whole reason I do this is not, I don't hate AI. I use it all the time. It's just, it's that self awareness. If I keep talking
Yeah,
about it, then it won't happen. Um, Hopefully. Yeah. So thank you for that. That's a good answer. What's your go-to AIs at the moment? I know I did read a little bit on Studio Roo, on your process, but
Yeah, of course. I mean, look, it's forever changing. I'd say my tools that I really love, I think Claude is like the underdog of
yes,
really good creative writing. Are you a Claude one?
I'm a recent Claude convert from ChatGPT.
It's so also it's so pretty to look at. Like ChatGPT feels so cold and
White.
it's like black and white and whereas this is like little icons and sometimes like actually does go back to the thought of like a piece of tech not why can't a piece of tech be like pretty and fun
Mm,
and visually nice to look at. So Claude, I really rate a lot more for creative writing. And if you were going to use it as a medium brand for thinking or whatever, I think that's a good
mhm.
one. My go-tos like Nano Banana, I think is incredible for image making. GPT just had a model update, which really, really good. I'm really curious about understanding a bit more about like nodes at the minute, which is about kind of taking different images. You've got what's the Weavy AI, which just got bought out by Figma, for example. And basically it's like connecting lots of different things together. So like use this color, use this person and use this product, whatever. Here's the
Mhm.
brief, here's like a reference image or whatever. And then it kind of just creates these worlds and allows you just to keep all the worlds, all the elements the same, but like keep adapting the world ever slightly. So that's really good for like brand imagery, creating whole brand worlds and social media content, whatever. Video wise, I just love everything Google. Like I would just love to be Google's child. Everything Google does. I know, I think they have a lot of experimental arms, and I think not many people know about this part, which is, things like Experiment AI or whatever, and they have, like, Whisk, which is, like, really fun, playful text. You've got Flow, which obviously is really good from a video point of view, and there's a few other ones which are just, like, they're very nice entry level, what could you do to have fun? Like, turn your name into, loads of butterflies or whatever. Like, it's fun and playful. But yeah, obviously ChatGPT I use every day as well. And, I encourage anyone to just try it in really human ways, whether you're wanting to, make something for dinner with the leftovers of whatever's in your fridge and just like, look, just here's what I've got, make something. Or from like an interior design point of view, use it a lot for that. I'll take photos of my house and like, okay, act as an interior design professional. Taking this color palette, what would you think goes well from a rug, whatever.
Mhm.
But then also, yeah, from like a professional point of view, getting it to prep for interviews, getting it to, send back challenges, question things that you've done, stand by that. But then also, I'm really interested in it being, a tool that you can use for reflection as well. A girl I know, Georgia, she is all around, using it as kind of like a spiritual element, whether you're using it for like self reflection or kind of thinking deeper or thinking in different ways. So yeah, they all have their uses, and it's got to a point where there are so many. Like I could just name all of them, but again, it's like just get started with one and just see
Mm.
where you go. Like because they're all after a while, they're all kind of the same. It's
Mhm.
how you your ideas that you put into it, is that what matters really?
Did you say nodes? I'm intrigued by that. I've
Yeah.
not heard of that one.
Yeah, so you've got, like, AI models, AI
Mhm.
tools, so you've got just, like, standard things like Claude, ChatGPT, or whatever. Then you've got, like, agentic workflows, so Notion, yeah, or any of those kind of ones that's like A plus B plus C equals D, now go on and do it, and it sort of creates that sort of working flow itself, which is really great
Okay.
for businesses and things like that. And then Nodes is kind of like a platform, I guess, which pulls in lots of different things, so it might pull in Google, Kling, whatever, and just like create lots of different visuals from different models. And then you can kind of select what works and then keep going from there without having to go all the way back to the start. But yeah, have a look at them. A lot of people are starting to develop them. Figma obviously saw a really great opportunity in Weebly and bought them for like a shit ton of cash. So yeah, really exciting. So definitely check them out from
That's
a creative
exciting.
point of view. They're really cool.
Bit of a sort of side question. You're obviously using so many different AIs. Do you now have to just pay subscriptions for all of those?
It's a really good question. And it does become, and I think I remember reading someone say, like, it's a bit of subscription overload at the minute. And
Mm.
yeah, I've had to be really mindful of that because also I have subscription to Midjourney as well, which I
Mhm.
use. Mentioned that one. That one's very good for like very stylized like products or
Yeah.
whatever. However, I've really found a big problem with diversity and huge bias. So I was trying to create some images. Sorry, I will go back to subscription. Trying to
No,
create some
that's fine.
images the other day with stretch marks and scars and imperfections on the face. And oh, that's what I was trying to create something with like chapped lips, like really like
Mm.
chapped lips. And I could not create an ugly picture of a woman.
Interesting.
And I mean, this was kind of a big problem. I screenshotted them all because I was like going to use them for a post or a project or whatever it might be. But I went so descriptive of like, this woman has stretch marks on her body. This is her skin type, da da da. And what came out every time was this like beautiful white blonde woman on a beach or whatever it might be. Then I was trying to create a black woman with grey frizzy hair. And, she's aging and she has this beautiful big hair that is grey and whatever, wouldn't do it. All it created was this like slick looking model of a woman, a black woman with like really slick, her hair was grey, but it was like fashioned. So there's a big watch out when it comes to AI, obviously, and bias, and it just kind of feeding off who's using it and what's happening. And that's why I'm particularly interested in more women and girls getting their hands on the tools and just using them in any way. But yes, when it comes to subscriptions, it ends up becoming crazy. So I do think, there's a free limit to a lot of the ones you can use. And
Mhm.
then depending on how much you use it, I still haven't actually paid for ChatGPT Pro, but I do think it's worth it.
Mm.
I know that people who use do completely see the benefits, but I do find especially now I'm using it for work. So it kind of all feeds into my project feeds. But yeah, things that you don't consider is also like the upscaling, like the enhancing your
Of course,
visuals,
actually,
and
yeah.
that sort of things. subscription. So you've got like Topaz, but I use a different one at the minute. But yeah, I mean, luckily I can kind of like roughly edit. I know I can do a lot of it behind the scenes myself. And so it's mainly just like the tools, I guess. But
That's
yeah,
great.
I mean, it's still a shit ton cheaper than going and shooting in
Yeah,
South
for sure.
Africa for a KFC ad.
Is Studio Roo just yourself, or do you have a team?
So right now it's myself with a flexible community of people. So I have a few editors who I work with, more like motion designers, but mainly it's just me, just like one man banding it right now
Killing it.
and
Nice.
leaning into the people that I need to, I guess, as and when. And hopefully that will be kind of like the most profitable model.
Yes, I can see that. That's awesome. Congratulations. Yeah, have you got any advice for sort of young people coming in that want to do a creative career? I noticed, I'm sorry we keep coming back to this, we talk about AI a lot, but we have been lucky enough I say lucky enough, we started our careers where AI wasn't a thing. We've had to learn craft,
Mm.
taste, all these sorts of things. And it's something I've asked a lot of my guests, is something I'm curious about. How do young creatives coming into the industry, like what's some advice for them to create that craft, or like, do they delve straight into AI? Or I'm just super intrigued as to what people think about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. One, I actually don't really know
Mm.
what I would do if I was 21 coming into the industry or whatever. Cause like there is that element of like, well, I can imagine that mindset of like, well, why do I need to? But everything I've created and done and everything I'm doing and whatnot is so, I was just talking to a client who I'm working on the B2B work with, and we used to work at Ogilvy together when we were both like 22 or whatever for 3 or 4 years. And we were kind of laughing about like the madness of what the expectations were. Like if you were writing a line of copy for Volkswagen, one of the main clients I used to work for, creative director at the time expected like 3 pages of copy iterations until I'd hit the net, and it was like a process or whatever. And it's probably a bit crazy. We were laughing like, oh my God, things that were expected of us and the amount of long hours we used to have to do and weekends, particularly. We used to work at Ogilvy in the Middle East, which was, I think, like the third best Ogilvy at the time. So there was so much pressure to represent that. But I do really believe that the work I do now is definitely built off the craft of that kind of, I say analog, but it's obviously not analog, but like physically drawing out visuals, thinking about words and how to, and I mean, you can still get that and do that in different ways. And I do believe that's so needed to get further. And I think, the thing I go back to, especially when it comes to AI, is like anyone can use AI. Like anyone could start a business, like what I'm doing, blending creative ideas or blending brand work with AI. Like that's not a new thing. But what is the difference is the skill, the craft, the taste, whatever it might be, the years of being on sets, having really difficult client conversations, killing ideas, killing more ideas, killing all the ideas, and then creating work, creating back, whatever it might be. And then now it's like AI is just like the tool. It's not the idea. It's just
Mm.
like AI, someone described it really well. It was like AI is kind of like the new camera. However many centuries ago, when or whatever it was, people were just painting landscapes, and then someone came along with a camera and they took a photo of it, and the painters were outraged. They were just like, what the fuck is this? They're taking our career, taking our art. And actually, again, anyone can use a camera, but not everyone's a photographer. Anyone could draw a drawing, and not everyone's an artist, whatever it might be. It's just like another iteration of the way of seeing the world and the way of expressing that. And I think the hype and the excitement of AI will die down, but behind it, you still need the craft, the eye to understand it. And I feel like you've either got that, or you haven't, particularly when it comes to like being curious. I think the rest can be kind of learned and taught. And whenever I've hired young creatives, I don't mind if like they can't spell properly or whatever. Like it's more about they have like interesting thinking and they think weird shit and they just like are curious and they're interesting, because like the rest can come, like you can teach the rest. I feel like you've got that or you haven't. So I think regardless of AI, my advice for young people would just be like continue to be curious, like absorb lots of different things. And most definitely my main thing would be to like absorb information from outside of our little bubble. Because I think we go on LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever it might be, and we're like, oh my God, everyone's talking about this. Everyone should be I should be doing this. And it's like, no, you're just absorbing your echo chamber and your algorithm. A biggest reminder of that for me is like my husband's 46. So we're like 8, 9 years apart. And I'll be saying like, oh my God, isn't your Instagram just like blowing up from that thing? And he's like, I haven't even heard about it. And he was like telling me all these
Yeah.
like Stranger Things memes and like the behind the scenes stuff that we both watched together. And I was like, I haven't been served it once. And I think that's just it. But it's like asking those questions, speaking to people who are from like different demographics, different, whatever it might be, going to that art gallery, going to a talk. That's the thing that would interest me, if wanting to employ a younger person.
That's a great answer. I do that a lot, just like constantly in my own echo chamber.
Totally.
It's
And
so
then I
easy to do, I
spiral and I'm like,
think.
oh my God, I'm the worst version of everything that I'm doing. And then someone's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
And that's why sometimes it's good to verbalize those worries and fears as well, because they're like, you've always got a good friend who just snaps you out of it and just be like, stop being an idiot,
Yeah. I think those are also analog experiences are good advice. I think,
Mm,
especially if you're in that constant spiral of in your own like sort of
yeah,
echo chamber, then getting out. That's where I sort of do my best thinking
definitely.
anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
So, kind of an interesting one, maybe more what I'm seeing at the moment. I'm seeing a lot of processes art and behind the scenes. I just wanted to get your thoughts
Mm.
on. Is that something you'll be doing at Studio Roo? Do you think it's important or not?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested as well. Like when you said about that, it's like the
Mm.
BTS kind of world, and there's like this big movement or big trendy buzzword of like founders building in public kind of thing. And
I've not heard that one. That's fine.
you've heard it right. They're like, we're building in public, we're building as we go. And I do appreciate that and get that. It's hard because I'm really interested in it. And I wrote a list of like, things that I kind of think I can see happening in 2026. And one of them definitely being like the rise of founder brands and people building in public or being more
Mhm.
transparent, ups and downs. And I think you get to know the brand and the person. And I have definitely started to do a lot more like talk to camera pieces on Instagram stuff. It's obviously deeply uncomfortable. Everyone hates doing it. It's very cringe mountain. But once you do one or two, I'm like, okay, who cares?
Okay.
And it definitely gets a lot more engagement for sure when you're being vulnerable about what works, what doesn't work. But for me personally, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this, is that maybe it's a woman thing as well. It's like I feel like there's less opportunity for me to get things wrong, and if I'm BTS building in public or whatever it might be and sharing my downfalls, I don't feel like, especially a woman working more of a tech space, I can afford to look like I don't know my shit. So I
That's
do really
interesting.
battle with that from a personal point of view, because it's really important that a client comes to me thinking and knowing that I know what the hell I'm talking about, particularly in the tech space.
Hmm.
But do think I've seen it so much happen with brands. The piece of content is part of the story, but the build up to the story, with like the Marty Supreme stuff that was just absolutely crazy, is so part of the story as well. Like that's like I feel like the film itself is just kind of like not even a byproduct, like part of a bigger ecosystem. Whereas previously it would be like, let's do this and then tag on some BTS. Like the BTS is just completely part of the story now. And if a brand isn't thinking about it, particularly with huge launches like that, then they're completely missing a trick. And I think it's really, really smart way of allowing communities and fan bases into these experiences and into like the inner circle. And I think that kind of like Substack community, whether it's Charlie XCX or whoever it might be, dropping just like nuggets of information to their inner circle before it booms out. It's just really, really fucking smart. And I can
Mm.
see that exploding even more so in 2026 and just being like a really great example of like how storytelling and marketing is changing. And on that Marty Supreme thought, I don't know if you thought this, and you probably maybe didn't even see it because obviously it's my Instagram, but Timothy Chalamet stood up and received that award
Award.
for
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And he gave a shout out to Kylie. That got shared so much. And previously, they have never really spoken publicly
About
about
it.
each other at all, right? And I thought maybe it was genuine, probably was, but I was like, that's again, a very smart PR move. We were all sharing that. And what was attached to it? The film once again. So, I mean, I reflected on it that, like, I had that light bulb moment. I was like, I reckon that was a PR move
You reckon?
for the film itself. So it just kind of goes to show like that kind of world is yeah, it was crazy. I don't know. I just saw it shared so much through like a female lens. So yeah,
That's interesting.
that's
Yeah, they haven't, I couldn't even believe that it's not something I follow, but it's been 3 years since they were dating. That
well,
was weird to me.
but I mean, interesting though, Ollie, that like it's not something
Yeah.
you follow nor me, but we were both like hooked into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then thinking about the film because that's what the award was for. And yeah, same. Like we were all so engaged in their private life, and it's that kind of BTS of them as well. Which, yeah, it's
Yeah, that's
a
fascinating.
really interesting example of that. I think
That's fascinating. I quite want to see it. Have you seen it?
I
The film?
haven't, and again, I want to see it too. I didn't
Yeah.
even know anything it was about, but I was like, I want to see
Neither.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
it's a
this is
film
it.
about a ping pong, really, but because of the
Exactly. So nobody knows anything about it, but it's like the most beautiful example of like neither of us knew what the hell that film was about, but we were like, I want to watch it. It looks good. Why?
Mhm.
Because we saw the Zoom call with Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah,
Like it literally worked. So
it did, yeah.
yeah,
So, sort of finally here, you started the freelance circle. So I thought this would be quite a nice way to round it out. It's where freelancers can anonymously review agencies. So I wondered what you'd give an honest review of Studio Roo would be right now.
yeah, it's a good question. I actually closed down the freelance circle a few years ago, and I think
Oh, did you?
mainly,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, and mainly a few things, and a few people have reached out to me over the years to try and reset it back up. And like, look, if anyone's listening to this and wants to
It's a good
take it
idea.
and run with it, I think it's a really, really good idea.
Really good idea.
And got a lot of traction, and a lot of agencies were kind of a bit pissed off about it, which I was happy about because, it definitely came at a time when freelancers were just being like never getting paid on time. Again, a bit like now, like it kind of changed for a while and now it's kind of gone back again, I guess, because there's such a surplus of freelancers and talent now that they're more just like a commodity or whatever. But yeah, I love the idea of like giving the power back to the people who felt like they didn't have the power at the time.
Hmm.
Um, and some of the reviews from particular agencies were very interesting because I obviously got to see all the
Mm,
behind the scenes. And again, if I built that now, I'd be able to build it a lot quicker with, no code, AI,
of course.
whatever it might be. I'd do like Lovable or Bubble or whatever.
Hmm.
And I have thought about it a few times. However, Studio Roo, what would hurt someone review? Maybe something around like just being like kind of messy but creative, gets the job done, collaborative. It's a very collaborative
Hmm.
company. Whoever comes our way, they're not like a client. I want them to be like a partner. We're just creating cool stuff together. So I'm going to say I'll get 5 out of 5.
I respect that.
No
I respect
complaints.
that. I respect
I'm going to
that.
be at the top of the list because it was a rating as well. It was a ranking. So
Was
any
it?
of the top brands could then post jobs for freelancers. So it kind of was going to be a bit of an ecosystem. But at the time, I didn't have I guess like the creative thinking or like the business understanding to see how I could make it profitable. It was just kind of taking up a lot of my time, and I didn't, I guess, have the willingness or push to like keep pivoting the business and just like you have to plug it like nonstop because it's not
Mm,
something that people are just randomly going to like Facebook or Instagram or whatever. You had to drive people there. So it was like this constant battle of understanding how you drive people to your website, which was an incredible learning. And building a business and a website from zero to finished product with a lot of users within 6 months was a big learning experience for me. And yeah, it was great, but live and learn.
I think what's fascinating to me is starting your own business is always
Hmm.
something that I wanted to do.
Hmm.
At some point, I want to work for myself, and I don't think it's often shared a lot of how hard that is, and whether it's worth it, and all these different things.
With Studio Roo, I've had the name. My daughter's name's Ruby.
Yes.
People was like, "What about your other kids?" I'm like, "Don't worry about them." Roo sounded cooler. I think the most uncomfortable thing you have to do to get out of your own way
Hmm.
is, get out of your own way, but also repeat your message again and again and again. And it feels like you're annoying absolutely everyone. And sometimes I post on LinkedIn, I'm like, oh, everyone must hate me. This is so embarrassing. I keep saying the same thing. But beating that drum again and again. And I take a lot of inspiration from certain people. And, one of them being the fuck being humble girl, Stephanie.
Yes.
She has this singular message and she says it clearly and she says it loudly and she's kept going. And, you see her everywhere now, but she started that business 6 years ago or something like that. And now, of course, and it's very easy to think if I'm not successful straight away, it's that instant gratification I think we're all so used to with the dopamine hit of social media. And I have had to talk myself off the cliff a million times of success doesn't happen overnight for everyone. And I think actually the reality is you have to just keep plugging away. And I have to know that, okay, this year I'm going to have some months where it's a tumbleweed and no one's messaging me and whatever. I mean, I've been super lucky since I launched it in October that I'd had someone, a friend of a friend or whatever. And I think working in different countries, being freelance for a really long time is super beneficial because when you start a business, because I'm sure it'd be so similar with you, with your podcast and reaching out to a lot
Hmm.
of people and speaking to lots of people. When you start your own thing, you'll already be connected to a lot of different people. So I did a project for someone in Dubai at Christmas time. This one, the airline thing, is like an international Middle East thing, again, through where I used to work. A friend who works in fashion, she's connected with some people. A girl I used to work with, she got me to do the talk at the Evening Standard, or now the Standard. So it's also just about like, I don't know. I said this on like a really big screen years and years ago, was like, just don't be a dick, like, and then good
Yeah.
business connections will hopefully come from it. But equally, I think it's also important to not keep plugging a business if you don't think it's got legs. And I think I had to think that through, particularly with the freelance circle and there's a few other small things I've done, is that like know when it's time to say, that was a really great business. It was the wrong time and I wasn't in the right space for it. I wasn't in the right headspace or financially, mentally, whatever it might be. So just knowing yourself in that moment as well. But also, I think when it comes to business ideas, and I think probably really similar, like, oh, what would my business be? What would I do? What's this brand new cool shiny thing I'll create, a piece of tech or whatever? I think sometimes you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just do something really well. Do something that maybe other people are doing or people are doing in a really basic way and just do it great. And that can equally just be the business. It doesn't have to be something, I was thinking of this intricate business model of all these different arms. It's like, no, just like create really good work for brands at reasonable prices. And then that's it. And, maybe it'll pivot, maybe it'll change. But for now, it's just like, just keep it simple.
Mm. I think that's great advice. It's so funny. You touched on so many things there that I was just relating to. First of all, the being a humble woman. I saw her talk at South by
Yeah.
Southwest and bought her book. And then she is actually kind of the reason I started this.
Oh,
And
amazing.
then, yeah, one day I'll get her on, be a full
Yeah,
circle
sure.
moment.
She starts out sort of in our industry as well,
Mm.
and then kind of, and I think that's the main thing I take from what she says is like actually less so about the content, but more about the way she
Mm.
presents it. It's just so direct, and she has that one singular, very clear message. Well, she did until now. She's pivoting from a
Yes,
slightly different marketing point, which I can sort of see how that's been seeded as well. She just says it, and she says it again and again. She says it loudly.
it does, yeah. It's interesting. And then the other thing was there's one sort of philosophy that I'm sort of coming back to, which is it's Japanese philosophy and it's called Kaizen. And it just means to do just every time you do something, the next time you do it a little bit better. And I think that was
I
kind
love
of
that.
relating to what you were just saying. I think that's what helps me continue is to know that every one I do will hopefully be that little bit better. And then eventually you'll be where you want to be. I think that's really good
Exactly.
advice.
You just got to keep plugging and practicing, and just, there's a friend of mine and he has a big signage thing that just says, "Begin anywhere." And I think that's it. It's like, just get started because
Mm.
the biggest thing I creators we're such procrastinators. And it's like amazing that you even just got started with your podcast, got people on it, sticking to your commitments, and then it will just continue. Like it's not going to be a huge success overnight. Oh, it might be. Maybe this particular podcast will.
It's been so lovely to talk to you, and I'm sure I'm going to have loads of questions regarding like AI and stuff. If that's okay, I'll reach out to you and
Yeah.
chat. But I think it's been great.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for having me on, and I
Thank you.
really have loved the conversation. I think, it's nice to sometimes when you talk to someone else about it, also, like, makes you feel a bit more confident in, like, what you're doing. I think sometimes just, like, saying things out loud helps
Mm.
bring it into reality, doesn't it? So, yeah, I mean,
I think
my
what you're doing
business
is
stuff is.
is very admirable, and it's very
Thank
exciting.
you.
I'm intrigued to know what stuff you're going to put out and keep doing it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's collaborate on something later in the year when I've got some cool projects on.
Oh, I'd love to. I'd love to.